Hello, and welcome to what is going to be Soccer with Evelyn. And today I'm going to talk about why do the French women keep losing? And what's up with this supposed quarterfinal jinx that they have? And the backstory on this is I am a huge fan of the women's French soccer team. And I woke up Saturday so excited because I get to see them play. And by the end of the day, I'm heartbroken because the French team loses to Germany in a penalty kick shootout. Today, what I want to do is go over their recent history and see if this jinx in the quarterfinal stage is really true. Look at their results. Then I want to talk about what are the reasons for all these losses? What does the future hold for this team? And what are some ideas I have on how to improve the team so that they're actually going to hoist the trophy at the end of the 2027 Women's World Cup, which is the next big tournament. So let's take a look at their actual results. And I'm going to start in 2011, the World Cup. If you look at it, they actually made the semifinals. And the next year in 2012, they made the semifinals. So no jinx there. They do begin to lose in the quarterfinals at the 2015 World Cup and some of the Euros. They're smaller at that time. 2016 lose at the quarterfinals, and in the larger expanded Euros, they lose at the quarterfinals. So let's fast forward to the 2019 World Cup because there's a lot of eyes on them. The French are hosting the World Cup. The men have won the 2018 Men's World Cup that was held in Russia. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of money, a lot of preparation, a lot of stress, right? Or a lot of excitement that you're hosting the World Cup. A lot of times hosts win the World Cup just because they're hosting and there's so much energy. I think one of the factors that doomed the French women's team is the draw. They were in Pot A as the host, and then the United States, which was the defending World Cup champs, was in the one all the way to the end. And so what that meant was if both of those teams won their group and then won their fourth round matches, they would meet in the quarterfinals. And that's exactly what happened. And the French gave up an early foul. Megan Rapinoe kicked that unbelievably magical, beautiful goal that didn't touch anyone and went in. It went through everyone. And I don't know how many, you had to go through 24 legs to get through there. And then chaos ensued late in the game, and Megan Rapinoe again jumped on a loose ball, and it was 2-0. The French brought it back to 2-1 with Wendy Renard header, but they were never able to equalize. And that was a huge blow to the French to lose on home soil with all of the expectation. And that's when I think this jinx probably really got started at this point. They did not qualify for the Olympics because of that. You guessed it, quarterfinal loss. And at the next Euros, they actually made it. They made it to the semifinals where they lost in a heartbreaker to, you guessed it, Germany, 2-1. They were tied and they lost it when the excellent forward for Germany, Alexandra Popp, hit a beautiful header over Wendy Renard, and that was another heartbreaker. But I think they performed well in 2022, especially given the fact that Marie Antoinette Katoto had gone down with an ACL injury during that tournament. They sacked their coach before the 2023 World Cup and lost in a heartbreaker at, you guessed it, the quarterfinals to Australia in an epic penalty kick shootout. In 2024, eyes were on them again, their hosts, right? The Paris Olympics. They win their group because Canada has DroneGate, and they are drawn, the French are, into a quarterfinal match against Brazil, which was, you would have thought, it's a doable match. The French miss a penalty kick in the first period and give up a horrible goal and lose 1-0 to the Brazilians. And I think that was an absolutely devastating blow to the Federation, because you don't get to host both a World Cup and an Olympics in a 5-year period, and you have really nothing to show for it other than disappointment. The coach resigned, but his assistant took over, and I thought they looked fantastic in this 2025 Euros. They won the group of death. They beat England, beat the Netherlands, sleepwalked through a victory over Wales. We're up 1-0 against Germany. We're up a person. Somehow give up a corner kick, lose their mark, and then Germany goes into a low block. And all apologies to Alexi Lalas, but PKs have a lot of luck assigned to them. And when you are up a person and then you've been up 1-0, you do not want to get tied, and you do not want to go into a penalty kick scenario, because anything can happen. You have every advantage. When it goes to penalty kicks, you lose your advantage, and luck can play a major role. And again, France got unlucky. They should have never allowed a goal. They should have been scoring goals when they were up a person, and a couple of silly offsides. So that's going to play a factor in what I'm going to talk about next, which is, why are they losing? What's the reason? Defense wins championships. I sound like the Progressive ad. 2015, they give up a penalty kick to the Germans and end up losing. 2019, I talked about those defensive errors against the United States. 2022, talked about that header that they allowed over their tallest player. The French tallest player lets someone get a header over her. 2024, talked about the horrible defensive play that led to a one-on-one situation and a score. And then in 2025, you cannot allow a team that is down a person to get a goal. Those are things that just can't happen. And in addition to that, you can't have failures to score. That's just, if you're going to have maybe a leaky defense, you definitely got to make sure you score. And the interesting thing about it is, the French will look great oftentimes in friendlies right before World Cup. They'll look great at the group stage, but then when it comes to the knockout rounds, it's like deers in the headlight. I'm not sure why they can't score, because there are so many stars on this team. In 2016 and 2017, they lose 1-0. 2023, they didn't score in that penalty kick shootout they had to go into against Australia. And then 2024, we talked about that. They didn't score. They missed their penalty kick against Brazil. If you're going to have a little bit of a leaky defense, you got to make sure that you make that a non-issue. You might want to benchmark Spain, because they've done a good job with that. Coaching issues. Corinne Diacre, who was the coach during the 2019 World Cup and 2022 Euros, I actually thought that those teams looked the best of all of them, maybe besides this recent team. They looked like they were very well organized. They had a purpose. They got a bit unlucky against the United States in the draw, and then a little unfortunate when Katoto went down with a knee injury in 2022, but they looked very good. She was sacked right before the 2023 World Cup. I know she wasn't popular, but that is a very difficult thing to do, to ask someone to come in, and they did. They asked the coach, he had been with the men's Saudi Arabia team, famously beating Messi's Argentina at the World Cup in the Men's World Cup the year prior. And he was, or at least he was, I will admit, like Wayne Barton says, he was a good looking man with his nice starched white shirts. But the team, it looked like what you would expect from a coach who's just been brought in and they've just sacked a coach and there's been this mutiny. It didn't always look like it was everyone on the same page, but they did play amicably. I mean, my goodness, what else can you expect out of a team with that much talent? He left after 2024, and I do like the coach that they have now. I think he's made some brave decisions. That's another aspect of their team. Controversial omissions. The one area that I would criticize Corinne Diacre was in 2019. She should have taken Marie Antoinette Katoto, who scored a beautiful goal in a friendly against the United States in 2019. So it's a real head scratcher as to why she did not bring her, and they could have used her in the World Cup. Now, it was very controversial in 2022 when Henry and La Somme were not included. And just this Euros, Le Sommet, Renard, and Dali were left off the team, and that was very controversial. I was actually in favor of it until the Germany game with regards to Renard. I thought everything was great, but in the Germany game, when we were desperately needing a goal and we would have a corner kick, I'd say, gosh, I wish Wendy Renard were here. We really need her right now because she is something special when it comes to corner kicks. So maybe that was a good decision, maybe it was a bad decision. The French have a little bit of an unbalanced league, but then again, so does Spain, and so do many of the European teams. But they really have a very unbalanced league. Lyon is the kingpin. PSG is like the next one, and then it's kind of the rest. Sometimes you have FC Paris, but that really means there's probably a lack of depth. There's a bunch of superstars. And of course, when you have superstars and you have an omission, you have a controversy. So we need to get more depth in the entirety of the league and players in the player pool. They've had off-field controversies. They had right before the 2023 Women's World Cup, it was kind of like a Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding type issue. You can read about it. It's online if you'd like to. It seems to have dissipated now, but it was another one of those off-field controversies that they seem to not be able to escape. Okay, so what does the future hold? There's hope for the future. France has a great domestic league. They have a great academy system, like just exactly like Spain has. So they've developed these players, and so there's opportunities to have other young players developed, maybe get more players in this. That would be very helpful. The men's team is a winner, and I don't know, sometimes that can be a help or a hindrance. It seems to have helped Italy that the men's team's not doing so well, so now there's more attention on the women's team. But I do think the money coming in, PSG winning the Champions League for the men, and the continued success of the men's national team, I think will continue to help the women's national team. France is not always the biggest supporter of their teams. If you ever watch some of their matches, even their men's matches, their stadiums are not filled like, say, for instance, a Premier League match in England. Some improvement ideas. Okay, the coach, I think they have figured that out. They like the coach they have now. I do too. He made some bold decisions. Their offense seemed much better. He rotated well. I just think he got a little unlucky in the Germany game. I think maybe he should have been standing up more, yelling at them to get forward, get forward, but don't go offside. That's for you, LaCour. And they need mostly to figure out the defense and the goalie situation. I think the goalie is a really good goalie, but let's keep looking at it, because that defense, no more silly goals can be let in. You have to be a very, very watertight defense and have that mentality. Work on expanding the pool of players. I mentioned that in the league. Get some more players, because I think the more players that you get, there'll be less of this feeling that there are certain players who, if they are left off, there's this big brouhaha. Let's make it so competitive that that doesn't become an issue all the time. But they haven't had a lot of luck. But with a little bit of luck, I think they can be going and celebrating and lifting that trophy in 2027. I'm going to be watching, and I hope that they do. And let me know what your comments are. Let me know what your thoughts are. What's keeping this very talented, exciting team from winning? And I hope you come back to my channel, and thank you.